Seems to be hung up a little bit. And all right, SirRhett, man, nice to meet you in person. How you doing, buddy?
Hi, pleasure to meet you, BitClout Billy. Super excited to talk about this
Yeah,
new venture
yeah.
with you.
Oh man, you guys are on fire. You must be working around the clock on some of the things you guys are doing. You're involved with the uh, clout members, right?
Yeah, so I'm the community advocate for Clout members. Coming from the influencer marketing world, I am very bullish on freemium content, and Clout members was the original freemium platform to be built on BitClout and to be allow access for BitClout native creators to provide that freemium content to their investors. So when I was presented the opportunity to offer my consulting services for free to that audience, I absolutely had to hop on that because I realized it's so important to give people the opportunity to monetize their content because a following, it means nothing if you don't know how to leverage it, and attention is currency. So we need to give people the opportunities and the skill sets and the resources in order to be able to monetize the value that they create, because so many people are out there creating massive amounts of content. So when I was presented the opportunity to join the Clout members team, I had to hop on and join as the community advocate and help that community grow and foster a lot of the benefits that they really have been looking for, and allow these creators the opportunity to reach that next level and to understand the opportunities that they have to monetize.
Yeah. So what'd you do before this? Before you got into BitClout?
Well, BitClout was a natural progression for me because I'm from the influencer marketing world. I am the CMO of my family's talent management agency, Melt Music and Media, and I also run my own influencer consultancy, Bitfluence, and it focuses on the opportunities and the alignment between the cryptocurrency world and the influencer marketing world. Because a personal brand allows you to earn more money, and cryptocurrency allows you to multiply your money.
All right,
So
so let me stop you right there. So you didn't start Bitfluence, your marketing agency and influencer marketing agency. You didn't start that because of BitClout, or did you?
no, I did not. I started it originally after I saw the alignment between ICOs and NFTs and creators, and I realized that there was a massive opportunity for influencers to monetize there. And then once BitClout came out, I realized I had to move on the platform, and that it was a perfect alliance between Bitfluence and BitClout.
So walk me through how it works with like how you like you've got your idea, like you can see the vision for like the marriage of cryptocurrency and influencer marketing. Not many people see that. So how do you go about convincing your current and or potential clients to say, here, hey, here's a path you need to take? Because, like you mentioned, NFTs, that's a somewhat relative, it's relatively new in the general sense of the term for most of the population. So how do you go about that?
So it definitely is difficult. You do have to go through an education process with people because you're right, there's a learning curve. And I try to put out content around those topics and walk clients through the opportunities that are related to those topics. And, I really feel that people, when they see the fusion of having an audience and building that audience and then leveraging that audience through either a project that they launch as an original coin, which now they don't even need to launch a project. They can go directly to BitClout and launch themselves as a coin, or the opportunities between launching exclusive collectible products associated directly with them and their personal brand. I think that they really are able to flock to it because, what makes NFT so interesting is the connection with super fans. So the fan that's going to follow you and engage with your content, that's probably your standard follower. Then I'd say the next step up from that is your standard fan. And it goes, a fan, I'd say, is one tier up from a follower. There's somebody who will buy your merch, and there's somebody who will engage with your content and will advocate for you and drive extra attention towards you. And then I'd say you get super fans who are willing to buy your token on BitClout and invest in your exclusive content on Clout members, and who are willing to buy your NFTs that are collectibles based on the content that you're creating. So I think it all kind of goes hand in hand. And people can really see that once you have a personal brand, you can leverage that for all these different factors. And cryptocurrency now is the future of monetization for creators. And I think that that's really where we're going with everything. So, me being an advocate for decentralization and for not being dependent on or at the mercy of these big tech oligarchs, and me being an advocate for independence and freedom, which I think comes from a personal brand, it only made sense that I would join a project like Clout members and I would onboard to a platform like BitClout. Billy, I can't quite hear you right now.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm gonna make a mental note to have our editor fix that. Had my mic muted while I was trying to adjust some things. So you're a pretty young guy, right?
Yeah, I'm 22.
Wow, man. All right. So what do you think made you such an advocate for like free speech, decentralization, kind of self-sovereignty?
So I think that kind of started when I was younger. I got into business at the age of 14 with the help of my parents. I launched my first company in the apparel space called #BoardCo. And I was really bullish on content creation then and the values that that created. And I also realized that this education system wasn't necessarily setting people up to be entrepreneurs. So it was setting people up to be employees and to be dependent on this macro system of corporatism. And when I realized that I wanted to do something myself and create something of my own, it made much more sense to me to be pushing for this freedom and pushing to give people the ability to create what they wanted and to work for themselves if that's what they choose. And it's really kind of what led me into this entire process, because I realized if I want to run a business, I don't want to be at the mercy of anybody. I don't want to have a boss or have someone who is telling me what I can and can't post, which now a lot of the centralized platforms are. So as I was involved in those spaces, and #BoardCo led me to a cannabis line, which I did with Waka Flocka, Hash Life. And I noticed a lot of the content getting flagged on there because it didn't have an exclusive, explicit, not for sale tag on it every time we posted. And mind you, we weren't even posting cannabis content. We were posting apparel, which happened to have cannabis on it. And so when the platforms can really come after you for something as little as that and as insignificant as that, I realized you need to be able to be free as much as possible, whether it's freedom online, freedom to do what you want. And I wanted to create that level of independence and education for everybody, because I see the value in the creator economy, and I see the value in independence, and I see the value in living life on your terms. So that's kind of what's made me so bullish on this, and why I felt I almost had to get involved in something like Clout members and something like Hyped Tickets.
So I don't know, I'm guessing you've been out of high school for 3 or 4 years or so. Were you the kid in high school that was telling everyone about Bitcoin?
I actually was not. So funny enough, I was telling people about the importance of diversifying your assets. So that was one of the big things. But for me, when it comes to cryptocurrency, one of my favorite assets is actually privacy coins. So I'm very bullish on Zcash because it breaks that connection in transaction, and it's not traceable. So one of the benefits of normal cash is the fact that you have a certain level of privacy, and I think privacy goes directly into freedom. So while while I think Bitcoin is amazing in the sense that it's immutable, one of my big issues with Bitcoin is the fact that it's completely transparent. So, mind you, the use case for BitClout is totally different. I think having a transparent blockchain there actually benefits all the users. But on Bitcoin, I think if you're going to be making transactions, even if they're non-nefarious, I think that you have a right to keep that for yourself. So I was telling people about privacy coins. Before Zcash, I was a big proponent of Monero. And, I even was an advocate for Ghost back when McAfee was associated with that project. So I think that there is a lot of value in having that level of privacy because it also gives you an added level of freedom. And that goes into a whole other category of independence that I think is extremely important for us in terms of the financial sector.
Yeah. So basically, you answered my question. I used the wrong term. I used Bitcoin. I should have said crypto or something, but interchangeably. But yeah, you were the guy trying to sound the warning bells for everybody else, huh?
Absolutely. I think it's extremely important for people to understand how to manage their money, how to hedge their bets, and secure their funds by having them in, for instance, multiple banks or having them in multiple cryptocurrency assets or even just diversified across more traditional assets. I think it's extremely important for people to be aware of these opportunities because you want that level of flexibility and you want that level of freedom. And, that's also part of why, being so involved in this whole freedom space, that's part of why I'm so interested in the freemium content model is because I think that creators deserve the right and the opportunity to have that level of awareness for themselves and to create content on their terms. Nobody's in charge of these creators. They are creating content for their audience and they're rewarded by their audience. So it's suddenly they are not dependent on anyone who tells them what to do, what to post, when to be in an office, what to wear. They're simply dependent on, well, is there an audience for this? Do people want it? So it puts them at the mercy of the market, not at the mercy of some authority figure that tells them how they can and cannot live their lives.
All right. So I think you and I, and probably most people, a lot of people listening to this podcast kind of get that. But do you think the influencers are getting it yet?
So I don't think they're quite getting it yet. There's still a learning curve to be had, but I have seen this structural transition in the social paradigm. So I think that if you look at the way people are moving on centralized platforms where they are brand dependent, I do help people get brand deals and get that level of independence through that as well, because at least that gets them the opportunity to monetize the attention that they have. But then you look at non-centralized platforms, things that are like BitClout and other platforms like that. There's a few others that have come out within the social media space and on different cryptocurrency blockchains. Then what you realize is that people are focused on creating content that is for their user. So, there is a huge shift happening. And we saw this starting. I think I'd argue that OnlyFans was the very beginning of this type of thing, where people moved from a ancillary monetization model to a direct to consumer monetization model. And, I help people create e-commerce stores for that as well, to create merch lines and help people, if they have a big enough following, acquire licensing deals or things of that nature. So all of a sudden, they have something that is theirs and they have a level of ownership. And that's something which I think a lot of these influencers have started to see as beneficial, because you make more money from owning your content and owning your data and owning the brands and the products that you are promoting. So it is a shift. There is a learning curve, but it's happening in real time. And I'm happy to be at the forefront of it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're so early. What do you think of I've been trying to think, I'm not an influencer and I don't run in those circles. I've never, I don't try to do like you and help them monetize and, all the things you do. But I've been trying to wrap my mind around like what would I tell an influencer that may be considering joining? Somebody that has millions of followers. Like, what sort of ideas would I give them to say, here's some things you need to come over to BitClout and try that wouldn't work on your current social platforms? So, like, what's coming to mind to me today, of course, is diamonds. Like, because I think sometimes we tend to look at this whole structure as people coming and paying artists, but is it more of a sharing society, like where the artist is sharing with not only they're not only sharing their art, but they're sharing literally, like through the use of like the diamond function, they can give to their fans. Like literally say, you're a part of me now. So my super fans, as you call them, I'm going to give you 4 diamonds because you bought this album, or you bought my NFT. All these, there's an exchange that can happen, like that's a different direction than what we're accustomed to.
So yeah, I do think diamonds are definitely a benefit there. And one of the main concepts, if I were to be communicating with an influencer as to why they need to switch over to BitClout, apart from the decentralization factor and owning their own data, I'd say that it's extremely important for them to be early to this new structural shift. And to clarify that, there is this structural shift happening with social media platforms where on the early side of things, you had things that were broadcast-based platforms where you put out content and then other people interact with it, and they give you praise and things like that, but there's not a sense of connection there. It's more parasocial than it is inherently social. And then now you have on the other side of things is this idea of community-based platforms. And, again, like that's not exclusive to the decentralization movement. We've seen plenty of centralized platforms that have that. So if you look at decentralized platforms like Telegram and Signal, there's a reason that influencers have started to create Telegram groups and allow their audience to hop in there with them directly. And there's a reason that live streaming has become one of the most ROI positive forms of communication for influencers. And that's why a lot of them have switched over to things like Twitch, because there is this sense of community to be in a conversation in real time. It's part of why Clubhouse was so viral, because it creates a depth in the connection that was lacking from the broadcast-based platforms. So BitClout is the next evolution of that. It's one of the first ever places where engagement is high, community is direct, and there are financial incentives to interact with people on a high level and on a frequent basis.
Yeah. So have you had any luck so far with the current influencers you work with when you start talking to them about, a strategy with this platform?
I have, yeah. So when I speak to them, it does kind of go into that tiered content model and into that direct to consumer monetization aspect. So they understand the value of community, but they understand the value of community in the context of monetization. So I've been making it very clear
So how would
that
you,
if
like,
you're
literally,
going
how
to
would you
join,
say, how would you do it? Like, what would you say to them to say, here's what I think you would, here's one example of how you could engage your fans and get them excited about maybe joining the platform and engaging with you?
I tell them first off that their primary audience is not on the platform yet, and then that tends to make people more apprehensive. Then I add, and it doesn't have to be, because the culture on BitClout is different than that of other platforms. The culture on BitClout is engagement centric. So you're going to get people who are their primary fans who are going to join because they have announced that they are there. So if your fans are loyal enough, they will follow you anywhere. It's part of why when TikTok was being banned in the US, so many stars promoted Triller. And they were able to bring massive followings and get up to the 10 million download mark so quickly, because it really was about, hey, if you're engaged enough and your following is loyal enough, they will follow you wherever you go. And I think it's easier now because videos were just added. So there is the opportunity there. So in addition to telling them about bringing their own audience and the type of community that's on the platform, I also tell them about simply using it as a tool in the marketing mix. I haven't been telling people to get rid of all the other social medias. I've been telling people to add this to the media mix and make it another step in their funnel towards monetization, because that's what it's really about. At the end of the day, people need to make money, and money creates freedom.
Are any of these people you're dealing with, are they the type that have assistants or teams working their social media strategy, or are they just the type that grab their phone and do what they feel like?
So it's definitely a mix. We do get some who are independent and who focus primarily on creating on their own terms, in their own manner. But I do also work with people who have social media management. One of the services we actually offer at Melt Music Media Agency is that social media management. So it's been extremely interesting to see people focus on things in that manner, because there's an aspect of, well, they are apprehensive because they don't necessarily want someone to be associated with a crypto wallet because it is real capital. But at the same time, if you trust people with your Stripe account or your PayPal account, you can absolutely trust them with your BitClout account. And, I was onboarding this travel influencer just 2 weeks ago, and she was saying how, yeah, her social media manager has access to everything anyway. So it makes perfect sense for them to be on there and help with creating that strategy for content creation or for engagement with the community and for building that audience on BitClout that you want. Because I don't think that it's exclusively about onboarding your current audience. I think it's about building that audience directly on the platform, and the platform is conducive of that in these early stages.
Yeah, it's still, though, I think we can both agree there's got to be some admin type of rights that are given and management of the rights to this. Because, like, for instance, I do, as our agency handles social media management for franchise groups. So we'll be doing, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook for many, many, many locations, and they each have their own accounts. But we're like the central authority for those credentials for their companies. And that way, because people come and go, media managers come and go, and staff members come and go, and when they leave, they might not leave happy. So
So
the problem you
I
have with
totally
Facebook
think you're
is
right.
you don't want somebody going and making bad Facebook posts. You got to be able to cut them off. But if they have your
100%.
keys, they
That's a
can't.
really big factor.
Yeah,
I think that kind of ties in with this new BitClout Identity tool
yeah,
that allows you to access a lot of the ancillary services. Where I think is going to come out once the service is entirely decentralized and they release the core code is people are going to make nodes that actually allow for an added level of login. So, right now, for instance, on Clout members, there's a login page and you set your email in. So the email has to approve. What would happen with the social media manager posting to Clout members then is they would just no longer get access to that email if they were no longer part of that team. And the new social media manager would have the new email access. So they would be able to go and hit all those approval emails every time they logged in. And I think, it's going to be on the node creators to add that level of interface and provide that opportunity. Because if you notice, a lot of the most successful people on the platform right now are marketeers. And in that context, it's because a lot of them understand the importance of community building and they understand the values behind creating content that resonates with people and, the importance of educating, entertaining, and inspiring people. So then they're going on there, they're creating stuff that people want to engage with. That in the same vein, what you have happening with social media managers for accounts is they're going to do that for you. And it's only, a few weeks away, I'm sure, until Diamond Hands and Maybeam and all the other, anonymous accounts that help develop this platform release the final piece of code, and people are able to start running versions of the account which you can log into as a social media manager without having access to that wallet.
So what do you know about the BitClout identity part of this? I'm a little bit fuzzy on it. Like, how do you is that the piece that's going to be allowing for this credentialing?
So I think it's more of a piece for developers and builders of BitClout related services. Like I have seen it be integrated with a few of the services we're familiar with now. Like we're looking at how we're able, because to be honest, we don't really need it over at Clout Members and Hype Tickets. What we've done over there is we built the original identity validation service. So that's one of the things that the team is so fantastic at. The GoDo company really did a great job at promoting these things and creating that value for people when they were building it out. So mad kudos to them when they were structuring these platforms. But when it comes to the identity factor, that's helpful for things like BitSwap, for instance, where you need to be able to log in using the BitClout protocol, and it's going to help you, but it's not necessarily something which I feel like social media managers are going to need, if that makes sense. I think the phase that's going to help the social media managers really is the next level of decentralization and the nodes.
Interesting. So before we get to hyped, still, I just got to ask you on a more personal level. Like you mentioned, you work with your parents, so they're obviously clued into what you do. Uh, what's their impression of what your new path is with BitClout?
So they definitely are interested. My mother's the head of the talent management company. My father's been the top licensing expert in I want to say globally, because he did the largest licensing deal for celebrities to date. And basically, what they're kind of seeing with it is that this is the next evolution. So they see where I'm going with it and why I believe that it has such an opportunity. My mother's actually helped me get in contact with larger celebrities that I've been in the process of onboarding to both BitClout and Clout members. And I'm looking into potentially hosting events with for Hyped. And, you know, my father has helped me with the deal structuring and understanding the value I'm able to provide for things like my role in as a community advocate in Clout members, or the work I do in my own personal company, Bitfluence. So I think there really is that aspect of them, while they're not necessarily as active on these platforms directly. I did onboard my mom directly to BitClout. She does have a BitClout account, and they understand where I'm going with it and why I see the potential. Because let's be honest, there's been a lot of problems with these centralized platforms to date, and a lot of people are kind of waking up, so to speak. So I think it's much better to just join the decentralization movement than to try to flee social media, so to speak. Because I think, you know, you've seen a lot of people who just delete their Facebook account. Well, that provides you a lot of disadvantages. And I think that if you're trying to build a brand, you need to be on every channel available to you. And that's part of also why I think they understand my role in BitClout as being such an important one. Because if this really is the future, you want to be early and you want to act and you want to be bold with those decisions.
Yeah, yeah. I just find it ironic, just based on what you said about, people should remain on these platforms and use them, but isn't it ultimately going to be using those platforms to their own demise ultimately, if everything ultimately moves to something like this? Like, you're literally leveraging YouTube. We're leveraging YouTube right now to talk about BitClout, and we'll probably
I mean,
tweet
I
about it.
think you're totally right. It is going to be to their own demise if they don't leave early enough. But I don't think now is the time for
Well, I mean,
anybody to be
to
leaving.
the platform's demise. I'm talking about, like, we're using the platform to talk about another platform. Well, if there's a critical mass of to where people just find these platforms like, especially Twitter and Facebook, sort of irrelevant, it's just ironic that we're using those platforms to promote another one. Um,
So the thing with that is that people aren't going to leave the other platforms. They may start divesting from it, and you may see a decline in monthly active users and things of that nature. So engagement may stifle, But the fact of the matter is, we're always going to need a platform for each medium, because BitClout is not omnipotent. And they say in marketing, go where the attention lies. And right now, the attention lies both on the centralized platforms and on the decentralized platforms. So people aren't going to jump ship enough that it suddenly kills off these platforms. I mean, think about this in the opposite context. Yeah, we're using YouTube to talk about BitClout, but when we post this on BitClout, guess what we're linking to? We're linking to YouTube, because it's not like the video is fully integrated into that platform yet. So that was one of the things I actually mentioned when they first released the video feature, is they should be attaching it to things like Theta, and it should really be going and pursuing
video.
Yeah, exactly. It should be a decentralized community, and it should be a decentralized ecosystem, because that's how you really get people to leave the other platforms. But until then, I think it benefits the other platforms to let content like this be available and be publicly posted, because it's just more people engaging on YouTube, even if they're talking about BitClout, because people like to have options and they like variety. And right now, they get to go to YouTube and watch videos like this one on the BitClout podcast, and then they get to go to BitClout and check out the content that is there and the microblogging style, because the formats are very different. And ultimately, I think it might be to the platform's demise in the long term, but right now, I don't see the centralized networks going anywhere until adoption increases on BitClout and on other decentralized networks.
Yeah. All right. So I'm glad you went through all that with me, because I wanted to pick your brain about your thoughts on this stuff. I hear you talking in some Clubhouse rooms, and you clearly are very bullish on this whole platform, not just the monetary side, but just the decentralized side. But so I wanted to really get to some of that information. But you hit me up like, we need to talk about Hyped, which I don't blame you. I was so excited when I heard you guys talking about it yesterday. I was like, all right, this is another cool thing that's happening like overnight. And so why don't you tell us about what I understand is going to facilitate the very first live concert on BitClout?
So yeah, I really think this is going to change the entire world, and it's going to alter entire social paradigms in the music space, in the conference space, in the virtual event space, and in the cryptocurrency space, because it provides a new use case for cryptocurrency, and it provides a new use case for social tokens. So all of a sudden, we've given BitClout the ability to be not just a platform itself, but a tool. And it is now powering the first ever ticketing platform based on social tokens. So with that, we've really decided that we're going to go after as much of the freemium space as possible. This is an extension of the technology used to build Clout members, and it is now allowing for live events to be held directly on the Hyped platform, utilizing the ticketing of accounts on BitClout. So what you do is you put together an account on BitClout, have a high founders reward, you work out with talent ahead of time, the payment structure, and then you guys promote it. People buy into your coin at that level, and once they've bought in, you actually have a record of everybody who's purchased a ticket at whatever level they purchased that ticket at, because that just shows up in your notifications panels, which are now fully scrollable. So all of a sudden, you have a full list of attendees. You use the threshold and the proof of stake wall that was built for Clout members. Now this is proof of stake for live events. So all of a sudden, they have to own a certain threshold of a coin to go to these events, and they're going to buy in. They click on it, and there is a custom hypetickets.com URL. And on that, people are able to see the event and get access to it, and they get to experience these things in real time. So it adds an extra layer of depth in connection between the creator of the event and the fans they have and the audience that they've built. And it is another way of providing value, because a lot of live events are extremely engaging and extremely important to people. They either entertain or educate. And I think that it's going to be very valuable for people to be part of it. And, I really think it's going to revolutionize the way we see things, because all of a sudden social tokens have an application outside of speculation, and they're going to be used as this tool that powers these new events. So people are going to be able to go to hypetickets.com, and they're going to be able to watch all these different events by simply buying into the appropriate token associated with that event. So for this one, the very first event happens on May 10th, and that has Mercury and yellow red sparks performing. And what you do is you buy into the hyped coin for access to that concert on May 10th. And that allows you to be able to click on the link on hypetickets.com and tune in. You'll see is different levels of heads based on how much people have bought. So there's different benefits that come with buying in higher, but you name your own price for this first event. That's one of the things we really wanted, is we wanted to create accessibility. So it all of a sudden allows people to reward coin holders of the events that they want to put together, and allows people to capitalize off the talents they have and the value they create, and allows people who are on the user side of it to get an extra layer of depth and an extra layer of access to all of these talented individuals who they are so interested in.
Wow. As you're talking, I'm just thinking of all the ideas that go through my mind of like ways to use this. Like I guess I've just been thinking about this as far as a concert goes, because you guys are putting on the first concert and that's your launch. But it could be other events. Like I'm almost thinking, like I heard some people talking about like conferences where you
Oh,
could have different
100%.
different conference levels. Just like when you go to a conference, you have different types of access. But I'm almost thinking, what if it were even just for a webinar where
I
there's
mean,
direct monetization to
absolutely.
products that people are selling? You always get hyped on these webinars, and by the end, they're stacking value. And if you buy, I can hear somebody now saying, if you buy 3 of my coin, you get the 4 DVD set and a ride on my pony. They're just stacking up all this value and trying to hype people into it. And there's a direct, like, the transactions happening right there. That I don't know. It just seems like a lot of things you guys can do with this. I think it's really cool.
Oh yeah, I think the applications are phenomenal. I mean, let's talk about you, BitClout Billy. You could host, if you have a major guest that's exclusive that you wanted people to pay for access to. You could put up, BitClout podcast private stream and use the Hype Tickets model, and have that linked on the Hype Tickets website. And people then have to own a certain threshold of that coin to see you speak to somebody of a certain scale if you wanted to do that. And all of a sudden, that's a direct monetization model for you. And then people get to buy in and they get access to that massive value you're creating by holding that exclusive stream with that major name. Then let's look at conferences. I was joking when we did the release. You talked about us working around the clock. We literally worked around the clock. I think I went to bed around 7 a.m. The night of the press release. We must have sent it out to a few hundred reporters at this point. And what it really is going to be is people are buying in and they are seeing this like massive value in whatever event it is. So when I was sending it out, like I tagged Grant Cardone because I'm like, this is the opportunity to hold the next virtual like 10x growth con. Like this is the opportunity to hold the next event for charities and the digital charity galas that can be held on here. Like this is an opportunity for people who hold live coaching to schedule live coaching events through the Hype Tickets platform, and you buy into each live coaching event using a set coin. So there's so many different applications to this, and the market is so vast that it really is going to alter all the social paradigms around the space.
So, all right, can it leave the internet? Like, have you thought through how it could affect live performances, like people gaining access to go into the theater and watch a live performance or the arena? Can this be the Ticketmaster?
I think it absolutely can, because people can buy into a certain ticket and then they have that paywall to claim their actual ticket that they show at the door. So it can be used for different applications there. Right now, the set integration is for events that are happening online, because we happen to still have a lot of content that happens in the online space, and webinars have become extremely popular, as you mentioned. But if we wanted to integrate this into the live event space in a physical manner, all we would do is we'd change it so you'd use the proof of stake wall as a way of claiming your ticket. And as I mentioned before, there's tiered content models where there's tiered product models as well. So you buy a certain threshold, you'll be able to go to that platform. It will sense how much you have of that coin. And that validation has been built in to the point where it's actually patent pending technology. So people can then go and they can use that, and they are able to acquire different assets. Like, for instance, why not offer a merch package or an alcohol package or access to the VIP tent through owning a different threshold of coin? So we can just offer different tiers in that model. You know, we'll set it up ahead of time. The GoDo company's phenomenal at the work they do. So they are able to integrate really whatever you need. So if you're hosting a virtual live event, you know, you can have your merch linked directly under your live stream. But if you want people to buy into a different tier for a physical live event, you can have those packages be claimable. And there's so many different applications to this. I really do think that it's revolutionary.
Yeah, indeed. Do you foresee, from what you described, it sounded like, so let's say you're Beyonce and you're going to do an event. And in your Beyonce, you have the Beyonce coin or account on BitClout. You really wouldn't ask people to buy the Beyonce coin. You'd probably have Beyonce live on 420 coin, you know, or something that designates that one event. So they're creating an account or something for that one event. Is that how that works?
Absolutely. So it's a new application of the social token where it's not just of individual creators, but it's of events specifically. And what's so beautiful about that is that it memorializes each event on the blockchain. So now if you buy in to the individual event token, what you're going to see is that even after the event, this is memorialized on that platform, and it's available on the blockchain forever. And suddenly, it's not like people can claim that they were there, because there's simply a list under the coin holders or under the diamond submitters, depending on how you go about it, that indicates exactly how much people partook in it. So it gives an eternality to one-time experiences. So
Wow.
I think that it's really it's just amazing, because there's so many different factors to it that offer value to people and that give opportunities to those in the creative space and that give access to those in the consumption space.
Yeah, it's almost like if you could have if you could resell your ticket stub, if there were ticket stubs for, um, name a big concert, um, well, any major fest, Burning Man, whatever, anything that, was a big event that you could say you were there, you know, like Woodstock. There you go, Woodstock. Let's say you had a ticket stock, people that from that era were like, "Well, I was at Woodstock." Well, now you got to prove it. Well, here's the list. Here's my token for it. Maybe you sell that token. Woodstock was 50 years ago. Maybe somebody, if that existed, they might be able to say, "Well, here's my proof. I'll sell it to you because it's a rarity."
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect as well, because now it's actually allowing the visitors of the event to monetize the experiential factor of it too. So they can go and they could technically sell the token after the event to someone else, and that is another way for them to have monetized that experience for themselves. So now not only are they paying to consume and benefiting from that, but they are earning from partaking. So,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different levels to this that, just add so much depth to the event space and that provide that value for these individuals.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting, and you bring a good point about it takes it outside of the realm of speculation because it's really just kind of buying a ticket. It's hyped tickets, but instead of like I'm putting some more money into your coin for whatever that may result in. Now it's more specifically transactional to say, yeah, you get access to this. That's all this coin is about. That you're buying is for this specific purpose of you get a certain thing for it. Just like if you handed me $1, you're going to get this token, this trinket.
Yeah,
So,
100%. I think that's kind of what's so interesting about it. And there's a few other services that are doing other things related to making BitClout into more of a traditional currency. But with this, I think there's really nobody that even compares. And I think that it alters a lot of the ways we view monetization. It alters how we view ticket purchases. It alters how we view digital event uh, hosting. So I think it's just going to be absolutely phenomenal for everybody who partakes.
yeah, maybe you just have to pay extra for a coin just to see the encore, huh?
Exactly. That's kind of what's so interesting about it is you can determine what that paywall represents and you can set multiple thresholds for a given event. So if you wanted to have people buy in at a certain value point and get more for that value point that they've reached, then that can absolutely be beneficial because, even if the coins change in worth, like the amount of a coin never changes. So you can simply set that threshold in creator coin value. Be like, you need to own X amount of this coin in order to partake. And that can really be one of the phenomenal things about it because you can set up those tiers. One, you can have that base level, and then you can go all the way up to 3 or 4 or 5 if you wanted to, and have it be like, well, here's the amount of value that you're getting every time you purchase up a tier. So I really do think it changes the way people view those things. And
How do you
I
how do you
am
how does
bullish on
hyped
high
make
tickets for sure.
yeah, so how does hyped make money in this, technically speaking?
So right now, along with Clout members, a lot of these services are being offered for free because the goal primarily is to give back and benefit the community. But going forward, eventually there will be a percentage model integrated into it. So in order for you to be able to spin up an event, a set percentage of the earnings from that event will go towards hype tickets. So it won't be these egregious models where you kind of are at the mercy of the ticketing company or the event host. Like this is going to totally, turn Live Nation on its ear. And it's going to allow so many different creators to decide they want to host events. It's just going to have a small percentage of that go towards funding the management and the governance of Hyped. And then, what you're going to end up having with the rest of it is the bulk is going to go to creators and the bulk is going to go towards event hosts. Because at that point, what's going to happen is you realize the money is going towards people who create the value. It is no longer going towards these ancillary middlemen who are taking advantage of those with real talent. So I
Yeah,
think it's,
man.
a fantastic business model overall.
Yeah, money's gonna have
Happy
to
to be
leave the
part of it.
platform. Yeah, this is so interesting, and money's gotta leave the platform for this to work, though, on scale, because artists have to pay their people. If you've got a rock band or something, and crew, and sound and lights, if they're trying to legitimately stream something, they gotta pay for that, and they can't just have creator coin that accrues that they can't liquidate, so
Oh,
hopefully all
100%.
this
I
goes
think that's
well.
actually the goal. And that's part of why you want to have individual event tokens as opposed to having people buy into a single creator coin. I think that that's going to end up being the real threshold there because if you're buying into the event token, you're making the purchase. It is not an investment. The founder's reward is high intentionally. And you want them to take that money out because you actually want creators to get paid and you want them to pocket that money because you want to support the creator who hosts that event.
Yeah, this is cool. All right, man. I'm glad you made it, and glad we could do this. I'm excited to see what happens with this concert. I'm hoping I'm going to be available to watch this one. I've already bought a little bit just to make sure I can have access if I'm available.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens with this, and can't wait to see in a year from now what it becomes. So, way to go, guys.
Yeah, I really think it's going to revolutionize a lot of different things as it gains traction and as we move towards decentralization. But yeah, thank you so much, BitClout Billy, for having me on the BitClout podcast. Everyone who's listening or watching to go to the @hyped token on BitClout and make a purchase so you can attend the event at hypetickets.com on May 10th. And I look forward to seeing you guys Monday.
Yeah, we'll put this in the show notes. And to be clear, it's hyped, HYPED tickets.com. So make sure you
Absolutely.
get
Let's get hyped.
Yeah, you're right on, man. Thanks, Rhett.
All right.